really excited today to have Dave Sherris on this call with us. Dave was one of my first fellows. As you know, from watching these videos, we're celebrating 30 years of the Larrabee Center. It's been an amazing 30 years, and we've had some great fellows, David being one of the best. Dave's now in Buffalo, but Dave, can you tell us how you got out here to Seattle in the first place?
Sure. So I well early in my career, I knew I wanted to go into plastics of some nature. And luckily, I got guided into facial plastics instead of general plastics, certainly for me in my career and the breadth of what we do. And I was lucky enough in my medical school and then residency to have Vito Quintella come to Rochester, where I did my residency and med school. And he was a great mentor that led me into facial plastics. And I kind of ended up his first fellow because I was the first guy who really wanted to do facial plastics coming out of there. And toward the end, when I was applying for fellowship, he said, "You should go to Wayne Larrabee." I swear, he literally said that.
Vito, great. You know, he's my son Gregory is now a sophomore in college, went to Rochester his first year, and Vito and Laura were like, mom and pop to him. They took such good care of him. We're such good mentors. They're such wonderful people. They're amazing. So it's good. So, well, when you arrived, you brought Lisa with you, and that was a real plus. I mean, she was awesome. Helped us out in the office and some other things. You guys just got married. I can't remember that.
We had gotten married in April. My chairman said, "I thought you were going to be the one that made it through not married," but I got married in April of my chief year. Probably your fellowship pushed the timeline a little bit since I was leaving Rochester and driving across the country. And I thought, I knew I'm going to marry her. I better marry her now. But certainly it's been 28 years and we've been very happy. So,
Lisa, I remember asking her once, why a beautiful girl like her would have married you, and she said, because he makes me laugh. Still true, I'm sure.
I still try.
Have a great marriage, and Lisa helped us in the office. It was wonderful. So, do you have any memories of I'm sure you do, but Larrabee Center, either professionally or personally, things that you come to mind?
Oh, absolutely. Number one, beautiful site. But number two, I knew I would do well there when the first operative day, you said, "Okay, it's lunchtime," and there was an enormous bowl of rice. And I personally love white rice. And I was literally thrilled. I was like, wow, way better than residency. I knew then I had found the right place.
Yeah.
But certainly, and even walking, one of the first days, we got there a little early. One of the first days going to work after having been there for like a week or 10 days, we had an apartment up on Queen Anne Hill. And we had, in Seattle, when it's a dreary day, you don't see Mount Rainier. I walked out one morning, it was there in its majesty. I ran in and woke Lisa up. I said, "You got to come outside. All these people talk about the view. I don't know what the view means. Now I know what the view means."
Yeah.
As well as looking from your operating room out to Seattle, just beautiful, wonderful. And you have great staff. We had a lot of fun. We had a good Friday afternoon / evening, glasses of wine, and it was a lot of fun.
It was fun to have you. Yeah, my current fellow, Sarah Kidwise, really nice. She's engaged to a plastic surgery resident in New York. Kern's his name. And he managed to wrangle a rotation out here for elective cosmetic for 6 weeks. I mean, you can figure out if it was more about me or more about her. But anyway, this is his last night here. So I took him out to dinner last night, and we were up at the top. It wasn't here when you were. It's a place called Ascend, but it's on top of one of the tallest buildings. And it's called Lincoln Tower. It wasn't here when you were here, but it's got beautiful views of cities in Bellevue and Rainier. And literally, he's been here for 6 weeks. It's the first time he saw Rainier.
I'm with you. It takes a while. Let's put it this way: Seattle's one of the most beautiful cities on a sunny day.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been nice. Yeah, I remember when you guys came to town, it was so much fun. But you remember that time you came over to the house for dinner?
Oh gosh, yeah. We came early on in the fellowship, like first week or two. And Lisa said before we went, "I hate salmon." She said, "I don't know how these people up here love salmon." And we got to your house and salmon was on the menu. It happened to be Copper River Run salmon. And she took one bite and she said, I love salmon. And from then on, I think she ate Copper River Run salmon every day for 3 weeks. Subsequently, we've gone to Alaska and fished for them. She wanted to move to Alaska because we were there in the summer. I said, let's go back in the winter and see if you want to live here. I'm pretty sure it's a no. One other quick one. Remember the guy who kayaked down from Alaska for a rhinoplasty, got his rhinoplasty, 1 week later, kayaked back after the cast came off? That was unbelievable.
Alaska's like that. They, I used to have a practice up there, and I went up there and saw people, and they'd come down. And I remember the very first time I went up, I took Jan with me. If Jan was, I don't know if she's around here today, probably. But anyway, because she was from Alaska, and I had a patient up there that I'd done a facelift or something on, and she said, "Oh, I got all these." She ran a hair salon up there. But anyway, so she invited me up to see her friends. So I went up there with Jan, and we actually saw patients in her salon, hair salon, and I saw, I don't know, maybe 15 patients in a day, and they were all facelift and aging face things mostly, and they were all Alaska women. They were kind of a lot of sun exposure and no makeup and kind of like that. So at the end of the day, I said to Sandy, she says, "Well, how was it?" I said, it was great, except, I don't think any of those people are going to book, but they were nice people. Essentially all of them booked. All of them they came down, they showed up, they got their stuff done, they left right away, and they were all happy, never complained out of them. So when you left here, you went to the Mayo Clinic, as I recall, is that correct?
That I did. I remember Carrie Olson coming to watch me operate
I remember.
In your operating room. And I said, "Carrie, can you come every day? Let me do more than the whole year."
And then I remember we did a process repair, which was kind of tough, and impressed Carrie, because that's kind of not your run-of-the-mill case. For a fellow. Yeah, I remember. Carrie was great, and I was so impressed with the Mayo. I've always been impressed with him, period. But the fact that the Mayo would send somebody out to watch you operate before they hired you showed, that more than the usual due diligence.
It's a brilliant move. It works well. But Carrie is retired now.
Yeah.
His son went into ENT.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly for a first job at Mayo Clinic, it was spectacular.
So what was your practice like at the Mayo? You worked with Kern there then?
Oh yeah, Gene. So I met Gene Kern, great guy. I'm going to dinner at his house tonight, but he was in the office next door to me. Yeah. So I had gone there, and Tom Wong actually had been the first facial plastics guy in that department, and he had left when I was on my way to my fellowship. So we drove, I knew he had because Vito told me. So I drove through Rochester, Minnesota with Lisa on the way to Seattle, and they have a water tower painted like a corn cob for the Libby Corn Company.
Yeah, I know.
And Lisa said, "I will never live in this town." Exactly 12 months and 2 days later, we were driving back to my job in that town. Yeah. But we had a great time there. We had all of our 3 kids there. The same OBGYN resident delivered all of them because the attending was at home every time. So she said, as a chief, she said, or she might have even been a fellow, she said, "I've delivered all of your children." We were like, "Really?" Kind of funny. But then when I was there, I did a lot of rhinoplasty as well as a lot of flap reconstruction stuff, a little bit of aging face. Yeah. And it was great. And the cases that you were given there walking in the first day were unbelievable. And the experts you have around you, this patient has this kind of malignancy. Should I reconstruct immediately? It's very obscure. And someone at Mayo has written a paper about 12,000 cases of that. So it was like, okay, call the guy down the hall and ask him what you should do. It was unbelievable.
Remember, I came out there and lectured once at, what did you guys call it, the Rhino Fest? How'd that get started?
Yeah, it's still going on in Buffalo. We'll get you out here.
Yeah. How'd you make the contact with who's the German, who was the faculty there?
Well, Heinz Stamberger.
Yeah, Stamberger,
yeah. He was wonderful. He was probably the best endoscopic sinus surgeon really in the world. And we just became friends with him. And I had a few German students, one being Jens Panichow, and then one being Holger Gassner, both who came over. And we met him kind of really through Gene. But Heinz Stamberger, unfortunately, just passed away about a year ago. But he was a spectacular teacher, and just a wonderful guy. So we would kind of go back and forth to Austria and Graz
Yeah.
and do it, as well as at Mayo. So it was great. It was a combination of both sinus and rhinoplasty and functional rhinoplasty course.
That's such a great combination. I'm just surprised more of our facial plastic people don't go that route, because it makes so much sense, both, business wise and practice wise, and just patient care wise, because obviously they're interrelated and the techniques are complementary. But it doesn't, it's not.
Yeah, but it's always surprised me. In Europe, it's very common, but in the US, it just never took off. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I have to admit, the harder, like I've gone more almost purely cosmetic. So the only sinus ones I try to do now are the easy ones that I do with a rhinoplasty. That when I came to Buffalo after Mayo, they sent me all the horrible sinuses, and I've been doing them for 17 years here. But I'm like, okay, I'm now 60. I'm going to start sending those to someone else.
Yeah, I'm just doing cases right now that I know I can get good results and where I like the patients. It's good, nice being in a position where you can just not do the things you don't want to do, and are going to make you trouble down the line in some way. So you've had a fellowship for a while?
Just a residency. I started a residency when I moved from Mayo on to Buffalo. They had lost their residency, so I restarted it. So I'm from Buffalo. I always wanted to come back. And I always knew they had Roswell Park Cancer Institute, a level 1 trauma center, a children's hospital, great community hospitals, and a VA. And I thought, if you could put that into one ENT residency, it would be spectacular.
Yeah, well,
which I was lucky enough to do. And I came back here after 9 years at Mayo and did that. And it's been wonderful. So we lost the VA because the attending there retired. But all the other sites, it's really vibrant. We have 2 residents a year. About a third of them end up going into facial plastics. So that's exciting and good.
Yes, it's great. I mean, as you mentioned Holger earlier, he came out and worked with us later, and now he's back in Germany, kind of doing a mini version of what we do. Yeah, I've always found it interesting. When I was president of ABOTO, I tried to, I've always thought that if you do your ENT residencies right, that they shouldn't need a fellowship in facial plastics if they're just going to do rhinoplasty and facelifts and blefts. I mean, that's you should be able to do that out of a residency without a fellowship, I think. But somehow fellowship's gotten to be a stamp of something that you kind of need. You
do. Unless you go to a rural area, if you don't have a fellowship, you're going to be in trouble. Plus, a lot of them, some of them want to focus more on reconstruction. Our residents are lucky; they get free flaps, they get skin cancer reconstruction, and they get all aesthetics. So they really could probably go out and practice. But it's just how it is. Especially if they want to work in academics or even affiliated. Typically, you need a fellowship now, and the patients, they don't probably want to come without the stamp of approval. But you learn invaluable things in a fellowship.
Yeah.
Just to focus on one aspect of otolaryngology for the year is night and day. Certainly Vito trained me well, but then going to you and Craig and even Bob Stanley at Harborview, just seeing different ways to do things and learning all those and incorporating all of those pieces in your own practice is invaluable. So I still think fellowships definitely are well worth it.
We've certainly enjoyed our having ours. Now, what was Craig's role at the time? I can't remember. He was at U then, or?
Craig was at the university, as well as we did some research at Virginia Mason.
Yeah.
So Craig, I would go with him, and I operated. I remember one case at the U. We were doing a forehead flap, and he kind of let me do it with a rib graft. And the chief resident at the university said, "Oh gosh, I've got to go to conference now." In the middle of the case, he was kind of going as far as he could. I said, "Okay." And the second year resident said, "I'm not going to conference." And that was David Crete, who's now facial plastics in Kansas. And I was like, this kid has got what it takes. And he was very good. And he got to do most of that case. So that was my remembrance of the university. They really pressured the conference, but in the middle of a surgery date, that is not my residency.
Yeah, Craig's been a great partner for me. I first met Craig. I was down teaching at a soft tissue course in Oregon, and Craig was Ted Cook's fellow. And Craig and I are sitting around having wine after just shooting the shit basically after the meeting, and it turns out he used to take music lessons in my house in Capitol Hill, because it used to be owned by the head of the band. He took like trumpet lessons in my house, and I said, well, there's a connection. This is going to work. But he and
Wow.
we
Yeah.
worked together for, he was at the U, as you know, then he went to Mason Clinic, and he's been a great partner over the years. He's such a good guy, and he's so modest, but he's such a good surgeon, and he's just a really, really good human being. So
Yeah, he's great. And when I finished fellowship, he and I did Rainier. We trained, we were running up and down Queen Anne Hill and everything. We get there, our guides we train with, we look at them, and the one guy's like 280 pounds, and we're like, this is bad news. You got to the base camp the next morning, when you go up to the top, the guy was like, I can't go. And so his son was with us too. So he guided us, and literally we got to about 1,000. I could see the little flag summit, but it is blowing like 50-mile-an-hour winds, and pieces of ice are flying at us. And he says, we got to turn around. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's right there. But we had a great time. It was really fun.
Yeah,
Craig's a great guy. I've skied with him subsequently. And he's just a wonderful person and a great surgeon.
yeah. That Rainier thing was kind of tradition for a while. I mean, I'm not brave enough to do it, and people fall off cliffs and stuff up there.
They almost blew us off, but it was fun. And look, let's put it this way: I hadn't ever climbed a mountain. I haven't since. I figured that was a one and done. I checked that box.
Exactly. So tell me about your private center. You started kind of a cosmetic center there, or
Yeah.
at the university. How's that?
So Jens Panikow and Jens, who I got to come back with me to Buffalo from Mayo, and Gene Kern came with me as well. So Gene had retired from surgery, but he came and teaches a course to our residents every year. And we, through a not-for-profit research foundation, bought a building to do research as well as practice in, and have resident meetings in. So that's where I do most of my evaluation in patients, though I still do surgery at the hospitals. It's beautiful. It's a little house we bought. It's kind of a mini Vito Quatella program. I didn't put 8 hours on the back of it or anything, but it's very nice, traditional old home. The architecture in Buffalo is really beautiful and very inexpensive. So we were able to buy a building with 20 parking spots for less than your probably car rent in Seattle for a garage. I mean, really.
I've seen pictures of it. Looks lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem in Seattle is that you have to have your own operating area to operate, and then the hospital surgical centers just charge astronomical rates for cosmetic procedures. So you really can't be competitive unless you have your own place.
We negotiated rates that were reasonable enough that I never had to. I had enough room. I could have added one on the back of this building, and it was my plan when we bought it. But they kept it so reasonable. I was like, why, I'm already 50. Why am I going to bother doing this?
Yeah, running an ORs, it's got the regulatory things have gotten more and more complicated. So it's nice not to have to worry about them. So
I always remember you telling me, you decide. You can either just go do your surgeries, or you can do your surgery and run an operating room in a building. And so you influenced me greatly. I also still do a little bit of insurance stuff. And in New York State, with the certificate of needs issues, it's kind of hard to make it valuable for insurance cases. I mean, a lot of rhinoplasties, I'll do a valve, septum, sinus, plus a cosmetic rhinoplasty. So the insurance part is probably why the hospitals have been very reasonable in my rates.
Yeah, they do well on that. Well, good. Well, it's so good talking to you. Is there anything else you want to bring up that we haven't mentioned?
Well, certainly. I wish my wife was around here right now, because she had a great time in Seattle. She worked at Sur La Table, and then one day you said, I need some help in the office. And she said, I had never been in a medical office. She opened the ledger book or whatever and just started looking at things. But she was a marketing major and had been in business before. So she is now my office manager, which is good and bad. Good in that no money can get embezzled.
Yeah.
Bad in that she thinks I'm still 42 and can do 12.5-hour surgery days. So during the pandemic, it's been crazy. Everybody wants surgery. So literally in a 2-week period, I did 8 surgery days. Normally I do every other day, which is very reasonable. It was a 12 and a half hour, 11 and a half hour, 7, 8 hour in one. I came home, I was like, give me the Advil and leave me on the couch. And then the next week, the same thing. And I was like, look, I cannot do this anymore. We need to pace this. But
Yeah, we had the same thing, but I had the, the early days of the pandemic when we came back, they shut us down for 2 months, totally, the governor here. And so, when you're around a private practice, that's real money. But when we came back, we were all paranoid, so we were using N95 masks in the OR, and I just couldn't stand to operate with those things. My loops didn't fit right on them, and I just kind of quit doing noses for a while because I wasn't willing to. I couldn't see as well as I thought I should, and I did fine with the cases, but it was painful. Now
I
we're all back,
agree.
and we're back to normal pretty much. Now we're wearing masks and stuff, but it's not.
Yeah, we all got vaccinated. So as soon as I was like, you know what, the N95 mask, it tires you out to a point where you can't really talk. If you talk, you start getting like lightheaded. And then unfortunately, I have to wear reading glasses now. So trying to fit those on the N95, I had to go buy 3 different pair to figure out so that it would be the right focal length. But us two, we were closed 2 months. And then we started back, and it was, I thought nobody would come, but we were really busy right off the bat.
Yeah.
And then as soon as vaccination, which occurred in like December here, I was like, okay, no more N95. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So, and in the office, we just switched to KN95s, which were a reasonable alternative.
Yeah.
Now I'm regular surgical mask.
We've got a special laser mask that's meant for lasers, but it's basically a surgical mask.
Yeah.
It's all great. You know what? I remember, I was just thinking of when Lisa came to work in the office. You're right. She was so quick to pick up and learn everything, but it was so fun having her. Because I remember her sitting there working and doing the stuff she did. You'd sit at the other little table and you always type with 2 fingers. I don't know how you could do that, but you'd type papers like 2 fingers. You're fast.
I've never learned typing. I thought in high school they had a course.
Yeah.
And I like an idiot 14-year-old. I'm like, I'm gonna be a doctor. I'll always have a secretary. I don't need to know how to type.
Yeah. You were
What
fast.
an idiot.
Yeah, the other thing that I just want to touch on briefly was, we did the Principles of Facial Reconstruction book when you were there. I can't remember how that all evolved. I know you were intimately involved in it. I remember we were drawing the little flow sheets and sending them around to Regan Thompson.
That was great. And Kate, the artist, she was wonderful.
Yeah, Kate's back. I just saw her yesterday in the office. She's bartering. So.
Well, tell her hi for me.
Well,
we had a lot of fun
with our new book. The new edition is coming out soon. She had to do a bunch of new illustrations, and they would only pay her $2,000 for the, it's probably worth 10 or something like that, And so I basically myself, just because it was like ridiculous. It's getting harder and harder to publish anymore. Yeah. It's somebody told me they don't want to do Ira's book again, and Tima fired. This they fired guys we're working with. It's just weird. I guess it's just I don't know. Maybe without meetings, there's no marketing. I don't know.
And they want to put them all online, which is like, okay, easily stolen. So I don't know. Kern and I then wrote a little textbook about suturing with movies and everything. And then we go online and the whole book is online. But then it was like some strange anarchist group that had published it, and there were weird messages in it. So we called whatever and we're like, can you get this taken down? This is crazy. But I don't know. I feel bad because the publishing, it's almost not worth it anymore. And to write a book, like Dean wrote his book, and I think he said he self-funded it. Really, that's, I think, the only way that you really can do it anymore, because it's so, I don't know, they must not make enough money. And nobody looks to get rich off a medical book, but you also don't want to pay for all your own drawings and everything, artwork. You'd like someone else to pay for that.
Yeah, Dean spent quite a lot of his own, but because he's Dean, he charges a lot. I expect he's getting it back. He sent me a free copy, which I was very pleased to see. It's a very nice book. But
I bought the book. He signed it though.
Well, the publishing thing's funny. I just don't. It's a different world. But it's so funny. I work so hard publishing articles. 200-300 now, probably, if I add them up, and basically. Most of them nobody looks at anymore. You gotta wonder if it was really, when you were in the moment it was good, and in the moment you probably.
Yeah, it's still fun, and it's certainly fun. I have residents, so they get excited and really, and the medical students also who might be interested in ENT. They love it, seeing their name in a publication, and it's really nice. Yeah, unfortunately, I think sadly, social media has taken over more than a true valid scientific medical paper, which is sad, but that's the evolution of our life.
Well, the journal's interesting, because as you know, we started Archives Facial Plastic Surgery, hence JAMA Facial Plastic Surgery, and now it's Facial Plastic Surgery and Aesthetic Medicine. But the model for journals has always been print advertising. I mean, basically, they pretty much pay for themselves with print advertising from the pharmaceutical companies and device companies. But that model's kind of gone now, and the quote unquote open source model where you basically pay to have your stuff published has always seemed a little weird to me, but that seems to be the way things are going. It's fine if you got big research grants, you got multi-million-dollar research grants and they tack on 5,000 to get your article published. That's fine. But
it's crazy.
Like doing a clinical study, plus the, of course, you're in a university where you've got them, but the review stuff you've got to do to get published these days, even just do a chart review is painful. You're private like we are now, you've got to pay somebody to do that for you and pay them 5,000 so you can get permission to review your own charts and write an article that you're not going to make anything on. And
it's crazy. No, I'm with you. It's sad. Yeah, it's very odd. But as I said, the residents really like to do it. And yeah, we try to do it on the cheap. I got burned once on one of those pay for whatevers. I was invited and I thought it was a journal and I confused like one word in the name. The resident wrote it. We send it in. They're like, yeah, it's $1,000. I was like, no, I'm not paying to publish something that we did everything. Are you nuts? We eventually got it published elsewhere, like a little throwaway journal, but it was like, okay, never burned again.
Different world. It was so good to talk to you, and I'm glad to see you. I'm sorry Lisa's not here. I was hoping to see her, but we can maybe touch bases again. I don't know if we're all going to be back on the circuit again. I enjoyed so much running around Europe and giving lectures and seeing all my friends. And I saw Gene Kern last in, I think Amsterdam or Portugal. Amsterdam, I think. I lose track now, but he was with his wife. He's been married a long time now. It's good.
Yeah, he's got a great wife. We're going to eat dinner with him. He met her in Buffalo.
Really? She's super.
My mother ended up taking Gene around. She loved Gene. She took him around to show him home. She was doing real estate then. She's retired now, but she loved him until she took him around to like 20 houses, and then she was like, I hate him. So we finally he goes, I want to go to this house in Lockport. Lockport's a suburb like 28 miles away. It's a hike for our area. We're used to really easy commutes.
Yeah.
She was like, okay. He walked in and was like, I want this. And then he went to the local bank in Lockport and met his wife. She was working there. So I was like, perfect. Done. But yeah, I worry about meetings both internationally and nationally, as well as the societies which really depend on the meetings to make all their revenue.
Yeah, it's tough, and no matter how hard people try. And I think, I think all of us have kind of decided, going to a meeting, paying a fortune to sit in an auditorium and hear somebody lecture when you can watch the same thing on your own time on a screen. It's the same information, and it makes sense to do it the other way, but the meetings had so much personal value, and it was, it was a way for people to market their goods. It was a way to meet each other. It was a way for residents to get talked around to people and interview, and I don't know, societies I don't know how they're going to make it, because they can't keep charging more and more just because they don't have other sources of revenue. They can, but a few of us are going to keep paying because we're totally dedicated. But a lot of people are going to look at the value and say, why should I pay X amount of dollars just to belong to society when I can get my information elsewhere?
I hear it. I'm already in like some sort of think tank thing with a group of younger guys, and a lot of the young guys are like, why am I paying this? And I keep giving them the lecture of why you should and how important it is. But at some point, I think they're all going to peter out. I'm with you.
I think so too. And in the old days when we had, turf wars, basically, we kind of needed the societies more. Those days are kind of sort of done, at least out here.
Let's hope.
We never know, but yeah.
There's always little insurrections that pop up, but yeah, here certainly, even when I moved back to Buffalo, they tried a little bit of a mounted effort, but coincidentally that month I had published a paper in Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery, so their best journal.
Yeah.
And they made me come to a meeting of all of them, and I said, oh yeah, I just published an article in PRS. Do any of you guys get that journal? So, it was hilarious. And interestingly, my dad had passed away actually when I was in your fellowship. Horrible moment.
Yeah.
But my stepmother started dating probably the most prominent plastic surgeon in Buffalo some years after that. So when I came back to Buffalo, she was still dating him. So he really kind of buffered it through. And he's like, oh yeah, David just published in PRNS. Why don't you tell him about that paper? It was hilarious. It was really, and after that, it was kind of done.
Was that
Same when I went to Mayo.
the Botox paper?
Yeah, Botox with wound healing.
Yeah, that's still a great paper. I mean, that's just classic. I mean, this, Botox, if we'd ever thought of all the stuff it could do, and not just wrinkles, it's just amazing. I mean, it's good. So, anyway, well, good to talk. It's no longer. Zoom is going to overcharge me, so I'll
enjoyed it. Good to see you. Best to Amy, and I don't know how many kids you have now, but I can't count them. But congratulations.
10 is the number.
10?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
I stopped at 3. I thought I wanted 6 till I had 1. Now I have 3. Awesome. Thank you. It was great to talk to you and catch up. Your place was wonderful. It was a great opportunity in my life, and I wouldn't be where I am without you.
thank you so much, David. And say hey to Lisa.
You got it. Take her easy.